Hey everyone, I'm Lee, and today I'm going to be doing a video aimed at people who know nothing about the 3D modeling application Blender. This is intended for people who don't know anything about 3D modeling. And I'm going to try and explain step by step what I'm doing so you can figure out a workflow and learn a thing or two about doing 3D models. I'm going to be modeling a small shed from start to finish, and I'll try and take things slow and explain things as I'm doing them. So, okay, this is the default view that you will get when you load up Blender. It's the first thing you will see, and you'll see some things in here you don't know what they are. The first thing that you'll notice is this box right here. This is a mesh cube, and this is basically the starting point of most projects. It's just a cube that you can deform and change and resize and everything to make the resulting project. You can start out with multiple things: a cube, a sphere, a cylinder, a plane, which is literally just one side of a cube, pretty much. I'll show you all the things that you can start with. And this is a lot of stuff, but the first thing that you'll start out with is this cube. Now, this thing here, this is a light source. This is a lamp. And in 3D, you have control over light sources. So if you want to put the sun in a specific place, you can. You can put shadows anywhere you want them. You can put light anywhere, which is really nice. You can have some really neat effects with stuff like that. And this is a camera. I'm not really going to get too far into the camera right this minute, but you'll see later on what it's for. Okay, now the first thing that you'll want to do is learn how to move around, how to navigate the 3D view. And there are several ways to do this. You can zoom in and out using the mouse wheel. And you can use the middle mouse button to move side to side and up and down, left and right. So once you get where you want to go, you can zoom in. So that's the middle mouse button. I will show you how I usually set up my Blender. So you can see that there are other ways of doing this. I use the Emulate 3-button mouse, and I use Emulate Numpad. This allows me to use Alt and Control. If I hold Alt down and left click, I can move side to side. If I hold Alt and Control down, it allows me to zoom in and out. And if I hold Alt and Shift, I can move on a plane, just side to side, up and down, which makes modeling very easy. For me, anyway. It may not be that way for you, but there are also a few ways to navigate the 3D view as well, using the numbers. If you do 1 or 7, it aligns you with the front and top. And 3 is the side view. So front, side, top. If you press the number 5, you go into orthographic view, which basically means that the lines are always vertical. Which can be helpful in a lot of different ways. But for now, I'm going to go back to perspective view. And go ahead and get started modeling. Okay, by pressing the tab key, I can get into edit mode, which is where you will be doing a majority of your work. So pressing the tab key takes you from object mode to edit mode. And back, actually. Okay. In 3D modeling, there are 3 parts to each mesh. There are vertices, edges, and faces. Vertices are corners. They're the... Well, basically, if you've ever played the game Connect the Dots, they're the dots. Okay, edges are the lines connecting the dots. And faces are what's drawn between the edges. It's basically the shaded part. Okay, so what I'm doing to select these faces, or edges, or whatever I'm selecting, I'm right-clicking. If you hold Shift and right-click, you can select multiple vertices, or faces, or whichever one you have selected, and you select it by changing whichever one is selected down here. If you hold Shift while you're selecting these, you can select more than one part. So you can select a vertice and a face, or just the face, and you can also select all 3. So you can select vertices, edges, and faces. Okay, so I'm going to delete this face by pressing the X key and selecting faces from the menu that shows up. That deletes that face. Now, if you want to put that face back, you can simply select all the vertices and press the F key, which fills. Okay, if you want to just select a certain number of it, certain number of vertices, you can fill just a certain portion of it. Okay, so this is basically the outside of the shed. Just how it is. A shed is a pretty simple structure, so in this case we're just going to use the default cube here. Now, what I want to do here is I want to make an inside as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the faces by pressing the A key. If you have something selected and you press the A key, it unselects everything. And if you press it again, it will select everything back. But I have the selection that I want. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this cube, the whole thing, by pressing Shift and D. And that takes a copy of whatever I have selected. You can click the left mouse button anywhere you want to set it to where you have it. So after you've taken a copy, anywhere you left click, it will place the copied object there. Now this causes some issues, and I'll show you. If I put that there, then you can see that it's not at the same elevation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a copy of it, but this time I'm going to right click, which puts it back where it started from. There's still a copy there, but since I used right click, it moved it back to the original starting point. Which is good, because then you can use these arrows to move it around, and it will be on the same elevation. Okay, so I right click and then I can move it. Now what I'm doing here to undo what I've just done is I'm pressing Control and Z, and that is undo. Now if I want to redo something that I've undone, I hold Control Shift and then tap Z. So that's undo and redo. Now, okay, that's still the default cube. So I'm going to take a copy by pressing Shift and D. Now I have two cubes here. What I want to do with this second cube is I'm going to scale that down. I'm going to make it smaller. I want to make it smaller so it's the inside walls of my shed. And to do that, I'm just pressing the S key. And I'm going to move my mouse in. Because when you're scaling, when you move your mouse out, it makes it bigger. And when you move your mouse in, it makes it smaller. So S, and then move the mouse in. And if you want to, you can also, instead of moving your mouse, you can also type in the numbers. So I wanted 0.9. So it's 9/10 of the size of the original cube. And if you look like this, you can see inside the original and see the size there. Okay. Now, I want to make a door right here in the front, and this is what I'm calling the front. It doesn't matter where you put the front. You could put it on this side, or this side, or you could put it on the bottom of the cube. It doesn't matter. Wherever you want to put it. It's just, for me, this will be the easiest side. Okay, so To make a door, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the face, the side where the door is going to be, and I'm going to press the E key. And what the E key does is that extrudes whatever I have selected. So if I have this side selected and this side selected, it's going to extrude from both sides. Okay? So I just want to extrude this. And I'm doing the same thing I did before. Once I press the E key, I'm just right-clicking so I can move it based on where it originally was. Now, something that's really cool that you wouldn't realize at first is after you've extruded and you right-click and you're back to the starting point, you can actually press S to scale and move it down. Move your mouse in towards whatever it is. And by doing that, it makes it look as if you're giving it another face inside. And you can move these out and in. But in this case, what I want to actually do is move this down to right about there. And you can type the numbers in afterwards over on the left-hand side for the translate. Which by doing that you can get a pretty good idea of the scale of things, a better idea. Okay, so I've got this part of my door here, but there's still the face here in the center. So what I want to do is I want to right click on that face, hit the X key and faces, so it deletes that portion of it. Now that face is no longer there. Okay, so now that I have the start of my door here, you can see the inside, or the face from the cube on the inside, that front face. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that face entirely. So now there's nothing there on the front. But by doing that, I've left a huge gap between the face with my door in it and the part of the inside walls. So I'm going to use extrude again this time on just these vertices here. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to bring this in. And then I'll be able to take these corners, the corner pieces here, and select these corners here. And I'm going to hit the F key to fill that in. And I'm going to do that again here. Select these, and I'm just holding shift to select all the vertices. And then these here. So now I have a solid door frame. Okay. Now, if you look here, you can see that this part is kind of beveled. That's because this part of the door frame and this part of the wall are not at the same location. Okay. Now if you take a look at these arrows, they are different colors. And they're different colors because they represent a different axis. And by axis, what I mean is in 3D, you have a vertical axis, which is up and down. You have and two horizontal axes, which is left and right, and front and back. So, in this case, it's Z, which is vertical. You have Y, which is left and right. In this case, it's left and right. And you have X, which is front and back. Okay, now in Blender you can resize, scale, and translate all on separate axes. And what I mean by translate is just move. I'm just saying you're moving the object, you're translating its position. But in this case, what I want to do is I want to move this part so it's in line with this part. And the easiest way to do that is to scale it. I know that sounds weird. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it by pressing the S key. And then since the part that I want to move is on the Z axis, I'm going to press S, X, and just move the mouse in. But since I want their positions to be exactly the same, all I have to do is press the 0 key. I hit P, but if I press the 0 key, it puts them at the exact same position on the x-axis. You see there's no more bevel there, which is exactly what I was going for. Now, you'll also notice that the door frame itself is higher than the floor, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this face, the door frame, the bottom of the door frame, and I'm going to select this face, which is the floor itself, and I'm going to scale by the z-axis this time because I want them to be the same position on the z-axis. So SZ 0. Then I'm going to hit the left mouse button to confirm that that's what I'm trying to do. And now they're exactly the same spot. Okay. That's the start of our shed. Okay, so something that I want to do now is I actually want to make it a little bit wider than it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the A key to select nothing, and then I'm going to hit the A key again to select everything. And now I want to scale it by the y-axis. So I'm going to S, Y, and then just move it out until I'm satisfied with where it is. Which is just about right there. Now, it's a little bit tall for what I want as well. So now I can either scale it on the z-axis, but that smushes my door down, and I don't want to smush my door. So I'm just going to take this top face here from the inside and the outside, and I'm going to move that down with that arrow so that doesn't smush my door. Now, the door frame itself is a little bit wide now on the y-axis because I made it wider. So I'm going to scale it down on the y-axis so it isn't quite as wide as it was before. Okay, and there's the start of the shed. So the next thing that you'll want to do is I'm going to add a roof. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this top face and I'm going to duplicate it. Right? The same way we did with the entire cube earlier. But I'm just going to duplicate that one face. And now I'm going to raise it up some so I can work with just that. And now what I want to do now is I want to separate it in the middle so I can give it a peak. I want to add more vertices in the middle so I can bend it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Control and R, and that gives me a tool called a loop cut. And with the loop cut, you can cut it into more than one piece. And what I'm doing right now is I'm moving the mouse wheel up and down, and that changes how many pieces it will cut into. So if I do it this many times, and now I can select where I want to put it, but I'm just going to right click so it goes back to the center. You will see that it has added that many vertices, that many faces, which is very useful in some cases, but in this case I just want one extra face. So I'm going to undo all of this. I'm going to loop cut by pressing Control and R, and then I'm just going to left click there and then right click so it sets it right back to the center. Okay, so now I have the peak in the middle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the vertices from the outsides and move that down. That's given me my peak, because these vertices stay where they are, and I actually want those a little bit higher, so I'm going to select those and pull that up. And there's the shape of my roof. Now, pardon me. Because roofs don't actually sit on here like this, they hang off the side some. I'm going to select all these vertices. Wait, actually before I do that, I need to do one more thing. I need to fill these in. And to select all the vertices like that on that one side, all I'm doing is I'm holding Control when I right click. When you hold Control when you right click, it selects everything that's attached to that same point. So I'm holding Control, or I'm sorry, I'm holding Alt while I right click here. And what I want to do is I want to fill that in, because that gives me my the front side of my roof. Okay, now I come back here and I want to do the same thing here. So I'm going to hold Alt, select it all, and then press the F key, which fills it in. Now, I held Alt there, and I selected this bottom row of vertices, so I can move that around. Okay, So there's that part. Now what I want to do is I want to leave these faces here. Those faces are where they should be for right this second. But these faces are not. They're not overhanging like I want them to. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to take this and I'm going to press Y. So it will be separate from the faces here and here. Y means to separate those objects, or those faces. Or anything. You can separate a single vertice. You can separate edges. But in this case, I want to separate these faces. Okay. So, now that I have them separate, I want them in that spot, but I want to make them bigger. So I'm just going to scale the whole thing up a little bit. Okay. Now that's left a gap up here. So I'm going to bring it down. And that's pretty much where I want it, right in there somewhere. Okay, now if you look at this, it's 2D pretty much. And we don't want it like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two faces, and I'm going to press the wrong key. I want to press the E key, so it will extrude them, and that way it's two-dimensional, or three-dimensional instead of just the two. And that's exactly what I'm wanting to do there. Now if you look real close here, there's a gap between this face and this face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select those vertices, and there's a gap in the back too. So I'm going to select those as well. And to enter this wireframe mode, I should have mentioned that. To enter this wireframe mode like I just did, I'm pressing the Z key. If you tap Z, it'll take you into and out of wireframe mode. And wireframe mode allows you to select vertices that you can't actually see without moving your camera around to places. So I have all of those selected, and what I want to do is I want to scale them. I want to scale them so they're in the exact same position. So I'm going to S, Z, and 0. And that took away my gap. Now something that I might want to mention is, since those are separate vertices, there was 4 vertices for both sides. Those are called doubles. And doubles are not very good. They're not very efficient. So what I'm going to do with all this stuff selected, everything selected here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down here, and I'm going to find the remove category, and I'm going to remove doubles. And you see how that removed 4 vertices? Now when I did that, it connected these parts here together. So this line is connected to this line, the one between these 2 vertices. And same goes for the back. This line is connected to this line. Which is pretty handy. Now, we've got that part finished. But if you take a look at it, it's kind of narrow this way. So instead of resizing it, because if we resize it, it will mess with the door, we'll just select that face, this face, and these two faces, and we'll move it on the x-axis, and it will just stretch the whole thing out. That's pretty neat, right? And that's the gist of our shed. I will do another video later using this same shed to add some windows and do some more complex things, but that should get you started. You should be able to start modeling some really nice stuff. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'll save it as shed example. Just save as a Blender file, and it will be in recent projects, or recent documents, I guess. But there you go. That's the start of that shed. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. If you didn't understand something, or I was unclear on something, please just tell me. I will be happy to try and clarify. And if you have any ideas for new videos or something you want to see, please just let me know. I will be glad to do it for you. And thank you for watching.